We took the Acme Dynamite approach and blew it up. Because if the system of instructional coaches and a one-size-fits-all curriculum worked, there wouldn't be comprehensive high schools in the Oakland Unified School District that have a 0% proficiency in mathematics in 11th grade, or less than 10% proficiency in English language arts. That model doesn't work anymore.
Welcome to Principal Office Hours, where we swear there's no detention slip waiting for you. Just real talk from real principals who've survived everything from budget apocalypses to 5th grade TikTok scandals. In today's episode, we talk about the turnaround of a school in Oakland, California, where this executive director came in and had to clean up the school from the finances all the way up to instruction and curriculum, how they use autopsy versus live data, and how live data has supported them to support their students a lot better, and why some schools are run more for adults than for children, and what you can do about it. Listen in for more on today's episode. On the show, our guest today has held teaching roles in France, England, Israel, and the US. He has California and Texas teaching credentials, holds a doctorate in curriculum and instruction, is legally trained, and has a master's in forensic accounting. He has also led recovery for 2 schools that went through a bomb evacuation, a shooting, and accusations of being a terrorist front. I'm half convinced that I have today on the show Superman, but he claims to be Dr. Seth Feldman, the executive director of Bay Area Technology School, or BayTech. They're a public charter school located in Oakland, California. Seth, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Hearing that introduction, I think this would make a great education Marvel movie. We should pitch it to Netflix as a Marvel movie.
They could start a education Avengers.
That's right.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit more about BayTech, the community that you serve, the school, and what do you do?
BayTech is a fantastic school in deep East Oakland, California. We are a 6th through 12th grade public charter school. We use assistive technology, which is a fancy way of saying software, to deliver personalized learning education systems for all of our students. We have amongst the highest, if not the highest, every year. There's 2 or 3 schools we're going to beat them this year to be the highest University of California A through G readiness graduate rate. And we're very excited this year because our students got into every single University of California campus, every single campus this year. We have 100% California State University acceptance. And we have several students this year choosing to go on to do wonderful work in the trades as an electrician, plumbing, and we even have one doing elevator repair and joining the elevator repair unit. We're very excited. We are mostly 100% free and reduced lunch population. We are roughly 25% English language learners, roughly 20% students with special needs of special education. And we are 100% a great community that is supportive, loving, and kind.
That's incredible. It sounds very much like you've run the school after your own image, being very human, but at the same time, achieving the maximum. And I'm really impressed. And you're doing all of this with a relatively tight crew, a lean crew as well. Like, how many staff do you have on hand?
We are a relatively small school. And it was interesting. We recently went in front of the Oakland Unified School District's Charter Matters Committee. And one of the board members said, we want to see your master schedule because we want to see how you do what you do. And so take someone like me. I am the executive director. I am the principal. I am the college counselor. Sometimes I'm the janitor. And oftentimes on Mondays and Fridays during pizza day, I'm also the person that serves lunch with my food handler's certificate. And our school is very much in my mold, as we have seniors this year who serve as 9th grade peer mentors, 9th graders who serve as 6th grade peer mentors, and everyone understands that we're all in this together. particularly in a place like Oakland, where sometimes it could be challenging, even somewhat dangerous. We're in it together and we take care of each and every one of us on campus. We have a staff of about 40 total people, a teaching staff of about 20 people, and we have a very high retention rate. People like tech. You never know what you're going to be asked to do on the next day. And in fact, popping up on the screen right now, someone just texted, "Hey, I need a bathroom break. Can someone come to room 42 so I can use the restroom?" Those are the type of things that don't happen at normal school. You just got to wait when you're a teacher to go to the bathroom.
Amazing. That appeared on your screen, not like on a walkie-talkie.
There's a program that we use. Someone needs to use the restroom. Oh, and by the way, who's ordering lunch?
That's incredible. I love it. How did you even get to this point? When you first took over at the school, what was it like? And it sounds like there's a lot that has been done to really build foundations and then some for what good education looks like at the 6 to 12 level. What is it that you did?
What you need to understand is when I got to Baytech, I want to back up. Baytech is a very important school in Oakland community because some of the most at-risk students, and we surround them with supports and love and make sure that they graduate and that they have an opportunity to do something that they want to do, whether it's college, career, and we're a very strong military school. Every year we have at least 2 to 3 students. When you have a small graduating class, 3 is a lot, that move on to the military. So when I arrived at Baytech, it was wild. We had a nearly 200-page, what's called notice of concern. The previous administration had been accused of things like embezzlement, fraud, even being a front for a terrorist organization. And we had to really clean up the back end of the school because what was happening in the school was still very important. Students were still graduating and students were still doing well on their SATs and still having opportunities. So we needed to make sure that the school stayed open. And when I came in, we cleaned up the finances. And in cleaning up the finances, we discovered that we have a lot of money to bring in programs for students. Between 2019 and now, we brought in all new school math program, all new school science program, all new school social studies program, and all new school English program. In fact, the English program we brought in, we didn't like, so we brought in a second one. And then we didn't like that one, so now we have a third one. And that one we seem to like a little better. We brought in more than 10 assistive technology programs to the school. We quadrupled our varsity athletics. So now we have varsity athletics that any other comprehensive high school have, minus tackle football, but it's coming. When you think about all of that, the school is really on the positive. And given what we've gone through, we're really excited. Just found out yesterday that it will be 4 weeks to this day that our brand new $25 million site opens up. So we're super excited. One of the things that we've done, though, that's probably a little different, that may be of interest to you, is we really use data to dive into what happens at school. And instead of being a data-rich school, we wanted to be a data-rich implementation school. And that's really changed the face of the school because our own kids can touch their data. They know their scores. They know their goals. They know what they're reaching for. And it's really exciting. From 6th grade on up, they know that.
And that's a really good distinction. So often we talk about being data driven, and what that means is just collecting a ton of data and not really doing anything about it. But you talked about data rich and focus on implementation. How do you create that distinction in reality, like on a day-to-day basis?
I view, in a somewhat flippant way, but I view data as 2 types of data: autopsy data and live data. And oftentimes when you're looking at schools and school systems, you're only looking at autopsy data, end of year test scores. Hey, that patient is dead. It does not matter what happened on a test that they took in April, that you get the results back in August. and then they either graduate or move on to the next grade in September. That is autopsy data, and that is not effective data whatsoever. It's only able to look back and see what happened. Live data allows you to make hypotheses and changes and then have discussions around these changes and fine-tune changes and fine-tune and bring those changes down. So there are many opportunities to do. I am actually one of the people with my background in a forensic and fraud examination. I can manipulate data so that people could read it quickly in 10 seconds and understand it. So every Monday, I give our teachers their data on their students' use of their assistive technology program, but not just use, but here's the percentage that understood this standard. Here's the percentage that was on task. Here's the percentage that was great. And they really got it. What did you do in that lesson that they really understood? And they were 100% on task. You must have done something. And it's very interesting because we have a math teacher who said, Dr. Feldman, that was the lesson that I waited almost half the lesson to do direct instruction. Instead, we used manipulatives for the first 20 minutes and we did creative problem solving. And then I taught the lesson. I don't know. So with that group of 11th graders, that's how they learn better. They were able to make their changes in their lessons for the rest of the year. Well, when you use autopsy, you don't find out any of that information. You just find out no. And when it really comes down to when you use live data, is you get to understand the how things work, the why things work, and the what needs to be done in the future, as opposed to when you look at autopsy data, you just learned the patient is dead.
Yeah, it's a good point. And to a certain extent, like state testing and standardized testing, that you need to have that at the end of it.
No, you don't need to have it. No one cares about it. I have students who every year are well below state testing and they score 4s and 5s on their AP exams. They score well above the SAT and the ACT, the national average on the SAT and ACT. State testing is for adults, not for kids. Standardized testing like APs and SATs and ACT, that's for kids. And kids use that to advance their lives. And that is probably the biggest disconnection that we have in the educational sphere today, that most schools are run for adults and are not run for children. At ATEC, we run our school for kids. Prime example of that is this summer, if you'd like to sign up for Dr. Feldman's ACT camp, you can sign up for free for 2.5 weeks of ACT prep camp, because we know that our kids have figured out that certain scores mean certain scholarships, mean certain amount of money, and they're buying. But the end of the year state test for the same 11th graders, never see it again. It never comes up. They don't care. The only reason we do it is so adults can have something to argue about. But the state of California never asked about our AP exam. How to be as small little Title I Baytech school, 100% free and reduced lunch. We're above the national average in our 11th grade AP exams of both English and advanced placement U.S. history. And I'm going to go on the record right now. I'm going to look into your camera and I'm going to say our 12th graders for AP Spanish, there was 30 of them taking the AP Spanish exam. I was just talking with our Spanish teacher, and she said that of those 30 taking that exam, 85% will score a 4 or a 5, because our kids quickly realized at $1,500 a credit at the University of fill in the blank, that is a $5,000 test. So those kids are bought in, as opposed to the state testing where who cares what happens. I call it the test of the unicorn and puppy dogs, because that's really the only people that care about it, the unicorns and the puppy dogs.
That's a really practical approach to thinking about not just education, but also getting kids to be invested in their own education and being able to see very clearly an immediate ROI on their efforts. Did you go through any challenges with the adults? Because I'd imagine that taking this point of view can be challenging, and it's a bit of a change management effort that needs to be gone through.
Interestingly enough, I would say the biggest champions of this education on our campus are our teachers. They can work anywhere. There are 78 schools in the city of Oakland, and they can choose to work absolutely positively anywhere they want to work. And in fact, with this model of we're in it for kids and kids are excited, brings them back to why they became a teacher, gets them excited. Think about it if you're our science teacher for a second. I love our science teacher. She's amazing. If you want something blown up, set on fire, burnt, if you want a smoke detector to go off, you want to see how fast two chemicals can blow up, she's your woman. But at the same time, she's really practical, and she's sitting with a group of students who are taking the ABSVAB test, which is the test for the armed services. And the kids were struggling with a section on magnets. So she's like, you know what? This is great. This is going to affect their lives. They're going to get 5 more questions right on the magnets, and they're going to have the pick of their job in the service. And so when she sees that she's really actually making a difference in someone's life, that keeps her going. That's the fuel, so to speak, to her fire. I think about the teachers on our campus. I specifically think about our middle school teachers, particularly English, history, math departments, and there are departments of one. So if they get in a fight with someone, it's themselves. And so when that English teacher, and she's been with us now for 13 years, our middle school teacher has taught Title I, East Oakland Middle School for 13 years. She's a fully credentialed teacher. She could teach anywhere in the world. And she stayed with us. But she says to me, when they come in 6th grade and they're reading at 3rd and 4th grade level at most, and then they leave me at 8th grade, 9th grade, and they're reading at 8th and 9th grade level. And all of a sudden, the conversation is, I want to go to college. I want to start a business. It just keeps me going. And because of that, she actually teaches her high school leadership class because she sees the value of what happened. Teach them how to read, and then you teach them how to be leaders. And it's really exciting. I would say the biggest challenge that we have is having what I call the educational industrial complex really understand our point of view, and that standardized test scores are not as important as tests that kids are important for their lives. And you'll see the laws that have been written, AB 1505. They don't ever mention AP test scores, SAT test scores, ABSVAB tests. They mention this end of year nothing test as the sole criteria if you are a high quality school or not. And it's very interesting when you look at a school like us, we are considered a low tier school, but the highest tier acceptance to University of California and private schools. There's a huge dichotomy between the state of California rules and laws and the reality of what's happening to kids once they graduate. And that's the biggest challenge that we have, is that people don't understand. It's really about outcome of the student. It's not about some stupid test that the kids are taking it. It's because some government bureaucrat hasn't taught in a school since Abraham Lincoln was president, decided that it was important.
That's amazing. And as you're talking, that strikes me is as you're so focused on the kids and their outcomes and their immediate journey, not some faraway job that they're going to have when they grow up. They're like right now, what's right in front of them that they can achieve that would set them on a path towards greater success in the future, it sounds like you're resolving some of the teacher retention issues that many schools and districts have, because now they're seeing the direct impact of their work. And you mentioned earlier that you have really high retention rates.
Very high retention rate.
Do you think it's
Let me
because
give you an example of what you're talking about, because it
Yeah.
really is the solve of the teacher retention. High school English, we have two teachers that teach high school English. And they both came to me and they said, Seth or Feldman, we think that 12th grade English is completely taught the wrong way. We get it's called English 12 and do, but it is not meeting the real world needs of students. And here's what we want to do. We want the students to take 1 semester classes. 1 semester is completely about writing. All they do is write. That's it. We teach them how to write a resume. We teach them how to write a letter. We teach them how to do a report. But what's the one thing they're doing right now? They're writing a letter to the editor. Then they wrote a complaint to the landlord. Then they're reading an article from the New York Times and they're writing the opposite approach. And they said, Feldman, our kids have to learn how to write, writing for the real world. A letter to your landlord, a complaint letter to the bank that something is wrong. That's real, but also academically, reading an article from the New York Times and writing their point of view. And so the students spend 1 semester writing, and they write for a grade every single Friday. It's called the Big Write. Every single Friday they write. The week's lesson, Friday they write. Other semester, though, the teacher said, if we are really a college preparatory institution, and I just read an article about this, so I'm going to go on a little bit of a bird walk and come back, I promise. I just read an article saying, how is it kids are graduating and are going to the most prestigious universities in the world, like Harvard and Yale, and they've never read a book in college, in high school. And so what our teachers said is, our students also need to learn how to really hone in on their literacy skills. They need to read at least 2 to 3 books in this class, classics. They need to read at least 3 to 4 short stories of high interest. And quite frankly, they need to read at least 5 to 7 journal articles and newspaper articles. So for that whole semester, all they do is read, discuss, and debate. And if you think about it, that has really brought real world skills. It's done 2 things. Real world skills to these high school students. They've got strong foundations in writing, from simple email all the way through to a report. And they're using in that class technology. So they're having to do reports that have PowerPoint slides, graphs, charts, and learn how to manipulate that and analyze at the same time. In their next semester, they're reading really important works, but also different types of works. And that's great for the kids, but who it's really great for is each one of our teachers. Our one teacher is a very strong, thinks we should write every single class. PE, lunch should have writing. On the bus, they should be writing. Before they play the varsity soccer match, they should first have to write out the rule in very strong writing. I hope he watches this because out of it, because his answer to everything is writing. He thinks that in the bathroom, they should be writing. But now he gets to do something that's really important to him. Keeps him motivated. And the thing why I bring this up is he is a retired teacher who came out of retirement 5 years ago to help me out during an emergency situation. And he has stayed with us for 5 years because he's still motivated. On the flip side is our other teacher who believes that every problem in the world could be solved by reading The Great Gatsby, Lord of the Flies, Shakespeare, and the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. If we just did that, everything in the world would be fine. But you know what? This year, he's, I want to do 2 new books. He's motivated. He's doing something new. What's interesting about both those teachers, without giving away too much personal information, they are well into what could be other people's retirement years. And they both qualify for retirement. One is retired and has come out. One could be in retirement and has chosen to stay with us. They have both renewed their contracts for next year because they have things that they've decided they want to do in the classroom. One of them has said, I think we need to do a little bit more writing of nonfiction. I think we need to really understand how to do some technical writing. And so we're going to do some technical writing next year. He's very excited about that. He's going to do some professional development around it. Another one thinks that we should be doing some reading of movies, books that became movies, and showing kids how much better a book is than a movie. And he experimented with that this year with a Stephen King book. And kids are like, no, class can't be over. What happens? And he's like, yeah, I want to do that next year. I want to show them great books that became lousy movies and why they should be reading more. And they're excited. And that's potentially how to solve the teacher retention issue. They're not bored.
Yeah. And it's a virtuous cycle because the amount of enthusiasm that the teachers are bringing to class, it's bound to be infectious. I cannot imagine that the kids are going to be bored if their teacher is that passionate about the subject. And circling back to what you said earlier about data, by taking that data and then applying it, it allows for the teachers to then have very personalized instruction to each of the different classes that they're taking. I'm just curious, how do they do that?
Our mission is to use assistive technology to deliver personalized learning. So take, for example, that English teacher we were just talking about. So instead of everyone in the class reads the same book, he's doing literature circles because he knows whose interests there are in 12th grade. He can pick the appropriate books. But if you think about the 9th grade English teacher, I have this data. This group of kids we're all going to read or write the same article. This group of kids is reading the 2nd grade level. This group is 7th grade. This group, 9th grade. And what am I going to do with those 3 kids who have already stressed they're reading in 12th grade and they're 9th graders? With the use of assistive technology, you could pick the same reading topic and you can level it to where your students are. Why I want you to understand why that's important is I want to make a sports analogy for a second. All of the data in sports shows teenagers stop playing competitive sports 13 when they choose to stop playing. And all of the data tells us it's because they're not good at it. View themselves not good at something, so they stop doing it. The same thing happens in reading. You get to 9th grade and you go, I'm not a math person. I don't read well. No, I'm a science person. Why? Not because you're not interested in it, but because you feel that you lack the skills and you're not good at it. So if you are the 8th grade teacher in our class, in our school, and you were able to do the same reading passage every single student so that everyone feels like they're all together in one community. Our kids haven't yet figured out, which is cute in a way, that they're all reading the same article. They're all having the same discussion, the same Socratic method discussion. Each of them has read the same article at a different lexile level that is personalized to them so that they can access the information. And that is really important for us in mathematics and in science. Because if you're doing something in 11th grade at that level, and that student is on the 4th grade in math, what we have seen in data, all these kids that have Fs, look at their leveling. It's not because they can't, it's not because they don't want to do the work. It's because their level isn't at this 11th grade work. So we have to chunk it and build them back up. It's not unreasonable at our school to see students in 2 and 3 years of skill level using that assistive technology approach. We have a block of time during our day on Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Thursday for English, Friday for mathematics, where students are given instruction only at their instructional level through the assistive technology. And the teacher is given the data to show where the kid is growing. And the teacher becomes the coach and is able to give them stickers and positive encouragement and say, hey, did you know you grew 2 levels this semester? All of a sudden, when you're good at something, the data tells you what for sports. Do more, you can practice more. Really great at shooting. Ronaldo, I'm the world's greatest goal scorer. Ronaldo only practices shooting. He does not practice defense in the top third. Well, that's somebody else's job. All of a sudden, you're good at algebra and you grew 2 levels. Guess what you're going to study on your own? Algebra. And we see in the data, kids are developing skills and find that they're good at something. They will use the assistive technology programs at home, on the weekends, at night. We have a math and reading Olympics in the summer, which is totally voluntary. It's on the computer assistive technology. It's shocking to me, the kids that log on because they're good at it, they're winning prizes. And the prizes are usually a sticker. We're not talking about they're winning like $1 gift cards. They're getting a sticker. They're getting a phone call home. They're getting an email. They're getting a note. What they are is being seen and heard and understood and validated. And that is when students will learn and grow.
That's such a great story. And I'm really blown away that students at Baytech have access to this level of instruction. And how does that fit in? I'm just thinking through and comparing this to a regular traditional public school setting where you have teachers, you have a curriculum that is maybe something that the district has chosen, and you have instructional coaches to help to reinforce that curriculum. Does this model work at all? How much deviation have you had to go through to get to where you are today?
I want you to think about the model that we've done. When I was growing up, on Saturday morning, my favorite cartoon was the Roadrunner and the Coyote. And there was always the Acme Dynamite. We took the Acme Dynamite approach and blew it up. Because quite frankly, if the system of instructional coaches, the one-size-fits-all curriculum worked, there wouldn't be comprehensive high schools in the Oakland Unified School District that have a 0% proficiency in mathematics in 11th grade, or less than 10% proficiency in English language arts. That model doesn't work anymore. If you think about our kids, it's interesting. We have special education services. And every year I'll ask the kids who have counseling services. We have a psychologist and they will meet with you and you can talk with them. Or this other model where you could go online and log and the counselor will meet with you. And I was really schooled 4 years ago by a brilliant kid who was now in the Navy. And he said to me, Feldman, I want to go online. That's how I do everything in my life. I play Fortnite online. I play video games online. I chat with my friends online. It's his counseling online. And so this method that you're going to take a kid who can't read, give him a book, send him home, wish him luck. You can't read. Here's a book. Go and do it on your own. You might as well have Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 talking to you and teaching you. But instead, if you take this other approach with assistive technology, where it breaks it down and meets you where you are, it meets you at your instructional level. And I want to tell you, it also works for acceleration. We have plenty of students that use the acceleration model that are now taking calculus as their assistive technology time, even though they're only in algebra 2 grade because they're in 11th grade, but they've tested above. So they're getting these other lessons. So it doesn't just work to help kids get to grade level. It works for what we call at Tech school-wide advancement. Our goal for every student is advancement. don't remediate our kids. They're not broken. There's nothing wrong with them. All kids need to be advanced in their learning. And sometimes we have to step in, use data to tell kids that they're escaping their education and kind of call them on a little bit of reality, so to speak. And maybe we can get into that a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into that. We spoke a bit about this before, and at the beginning, it might be a little bit flippant, but there's a really strong point to it. So let's dive into this idea of bathroom logs and its correlation with literacy.
Yeah, bathroom logs and literacy. As I said at the beginning, we're a small school and sometimes to take on a lot of roles. And a few years ago, our bathroom monitor needed to take 3 days off. They had something going on in life. I call it life. And I said, I'll do bathroom monitoring for 3 days. And as I sat there, I noticed that the same kids go to the bathroom every single period. They must either have the world's smallest bladders or there's some type of orange juice fountain that I didn't know about that was going on in their classrooms. So what we did was, and this is honest truth, I'm not making this up. You could all look online. We wrote a paper about it. I swear to you, it's 100% truthful. I digitized our bathroom logs and I decided to create an Excel spreadsheet. And using my forensic accounting and fraud examination background, I found the patterns in the behaviors. And what we found were 3 things. One, students that were 4 or more years behind in literacy, as soon as the direct instruction was over, because we have a specific model at our school, as soon as direct instruction is over and individual work begins, they immediately go to the bathroom, just like every other school I've worked in. 2, what we found is students that go to the bathroom once to twice a day, they're usually performing at or above grade level. They never miss class. Usually those students that are performing at or above grade level, back up, those are performing above grade level, they're usually using the bathroom about 20 minutes before lunch. Gone from 8 to 11:40, they just can't make it. It was very clear, those 2 patterns. You're 4 grade level, you're going to the bathroom every single period, all the time. And the third thing that we found out, using a little bit of qualitative data, interviewing them, was they actually were very self-aware, these students that were behind. They're going to the bathroom because they don't want anyone to know that they can't read. And so they excuse themselves, they come back, and then they copy the answer from their friend. And so we were able to design a school-wide system around bathroom logs and certain students and making sure that they stay in school. And lo and behold, 6 months later, their literacy scores skyrocketed. And we found the same happened in mathematics, in science, social studies, and languages other than English, Spanish, French. And so that was a prime example of that, using data for immediacy. I held some parent meetings and said, I'm really concerned about your child. They go to every single Feldman. I do not go to the bathroom every single. You pull out the log. Actually, here's your log for this week. Is there, Mom, maybe we can help partner and appointment to the local clinic. Maybe there's some kidney function, but we weren't flippant. Maybe there's some issue, something we should know about. Eventually, I just asked the kid. He's still with us today, the kid. I said, is there another reason why you go to the bathroom so much? I can't read. And I don't want to sit there. Everybody else is supposed to be working in groups, reading to each other, and I can't read.
Right.
So we were able to redo the chunking structure for many kids so that their work was separated into smaller parts so that they could access that work. But that's the bathroom log. The bathroom log basically just we could figure out who was basically escaping. Not to be flippant, I've been principal at another school and vice principal at a school before that, and a teacher when I had hair. This is nothing different than happens in any other school. The kid that can't read gets up and goes to the bathroom. All the teachers complain, "Oh, John, you go to the bathroom." Would you ever ask him why? Did you ever take that? Did you ever notice that exactly 12 minutes into the lecture, he or she has to go to the bathroom? Why? That's good when you got the group work assignments. They're off. So one of the things we also did in some of the middle school classes was we changed the structure of the lesson. So all of a sudden the kid didn't know when they should be going to the bathroom. And we kept them in longer and we had shorter transition. And it threw them off a little bit. But you know what? They were able to access their education and being out. Group work is when you're developing your academic language and your skills and your schema so that you can work on the problem or analyze a problem and have a discussion. You can't access any of that. You can't have that discussion or that critical thinking pathway. And therefore, your quickest escape is what I call the escape hatch of the bag.
So how long did it take for you to set this study up to be able to draw those correlations and then take meaningful interventions and action from that? And did you have anyone on your team who was trained in this type of analysis that was helping you out?
So the original test pilot was my 3 days. I figured it out like in the second period, and I did a small analysis. And then I asked our bathroom monitor, we bought him a Chromebook, and I asked him to, on spreadsheet, to fill out every single item on this spreadsheet for every single person that goes to the bathroom. And we did that for 2 weeks. And then I shared the results of that with our staff at a staff meeting. And I actually let them draw their own conclusions. I had a series of 5, what I call data protocol analysis stems. And based on these stems, they drew their own analysis. And then frankly, I did a bigger study over a couple of weeks to verify what we thought we knew in the data analysis protocol meeting and was on. But we made immediate changes after 3rd to 2 weeks, and we're always tweaking our little changes here and there.
That's amazing. It sounds very agile, very lean, and very unlike a traditional model where you wait till the summer before you make any changes and you wait for the academic year before you tweak it.
Remember when I said to you, there's autopsy data and there's live patient data. When I go to the doctor, I pray to God that we're not talking about my autopsy data. That's end of the year school data. And I really do wish more educators would really use that language, autopsy. It does not matter that little Seth Feldman went to the bathroom September, October, November, December in July. That ship had.
Yeah.
It matters Seth Feldman went to the bathroom every single in August, because he's missing his education. Or in the case of 2 kids, we actually did send them to the doctor and actually wound up being diabetic. So we actually helped them from a non-educational standpoint. But the kid talked about it and we said, Mom, would you be open to us helping you set up an appointment with La Clinica, which is a public clinic that we're associated with? And I said, absolutely not. And those 2 kids have diabetes. Now, we're not thrilled that they have diabetes. That's horrible. Are thrilled that one is 12 and one is 15 at that age. Using this data, we were able to get that medical care that will prolong not only their life, but will help them have a better quality of life in their current state. Because as we dug in, actually what you found out, there was a whole bunch of things happening with them that we uncovered that we never would have known about. And we did the same thing with our dyslexia screening. We had a dyslexia screening program that we used, and we're able to use that data to parents. And we're not doctors. This is our dyslexia screener. might want to give this to your doctor, and maybe there's some tests we can order together or some screening, but whatever. We have uncovered a few kids that have dyslexia as a result.
That's amazing. And to wrap everything up, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to another school administrator that they could take and implement like tomorrow to make their school better, what would that be?
We haven't talked about it, but it would be very simple. Behavior matters. Do not accept poor behavior. That's a teacher that's ill prepared, or a student who talks back to a teacher, or parents who come up yelling and screaming. Everyone on campus is watching you as the leader, and whatever behaviors you allow on campus becomes the campus culture, and that culture becomes what students, teachers, parents, and peers model. And so in my case, I'm super positive. You could have failed the test, and I'm like, oh my God, you got a 30. What are we going to? No, I can do two things. I can concentrate on the fact that 30, or I'm like, all right, so we knew 30%. What do you have to do to get up to a 7? If you were to come to our campus, you would, oftentimes kids walk themselves to the office. Talk back to a teacher, they walk themselves to the office because that's not allowed here. It's not acceptable. And one of the things I would tell administrators is be very mindful of your behavior. Be curious. That's a behavior. Be inventive. That's a behavior. Be experimental. That's a behavior. Be growth-oriented. That's a behavior. And don't worry about autopsy data, because that's a blame behavior.
I love that. So all of you listening, behavior matters. Do not accept poor behavior from teachers, students, or even parents.
Or yourself.
Or yourself. So hold everyone up to that higher level of accountability. And remember that whatever behavior that you allow becomes the campus culture. Thank you so much, Seth, for joining us today. And for all of you listening, thank you for listening. I'm sure you've taken away a nugget or 3. And until next time, keep leading with purpose and passion. I'll see you in the next episode. And that's a wrap on today's Principal Office Hours. Before you rush off to put out the next school emergency, take 2 seconds to subscribe. It's way easier than getting your budget approved. And if you like what you heard, head over to principalofficehours.com to sign up for weekly updates on the show. Also, the best compliment would be to tell your friends about us, especially the ones who look like they need therapy or a career change. We're going to be back with fresh principal insights and inspiration every week. Until then, keep being the leader that your ID badge says that you are. See you next time.